Hey there, my Fountain family. It's your girl Tika, and I am here with our very first Black History Spotlight. Today, I'm sitting with Mrs. Amber Davis. Okay, so tell us a story about your grandfather, name and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so my grandfather was Captain Lawrence E. Dickson. He was a Tuskegee Airman for the 332nd Fighter Group. And I guess I'll start the story back in 1944. 2 days before Christmas, he was on a mission and his plane had some engine trouble. So he pulled back, he had some wingmen with him, and unfortunately he had to find a place to land, or he thought he would find a place to land, but he had to eject from his plane. And due to the conditions, it was wintry, it was over the area of Italy and Australia area. The people who were with him, or his wingmen, didn't find out where he went down. They circled the area several times to try and figure it out, but they wound up going back to base. And unfortunately, he was declared missing in action. So that was 1944. Fast forward a few years later, what my grandmother had sought to get information and to find out what people knew and where he was. And unfortunately, 5 years later, they basically said that he was not able to be found.
Let me just stop you really quick.
Yeah.
So how was that, like, speaking with your mom and your grandmom, how was that like for your family? Like, not knowing, he was out there, doing something great, and then what?
Right. So to put it in perspective, my mom was barely 3. So she didn't get to know her father, but she always grew up wanting to know about him, more about his story. And it was unfortunate that it took 73 years for this story to come to light. So basically they brushed it under the carpet. Nothing was found. He was went from missing in action to assumed killed in action. And there was nothing else said until the DPA had some people investigating, and they found a little bit more information. And were able to find the crash site that was consistent with when my grandfather went down, on the day he went down. So after the DPAA, the World War II Museum team, University of New Orleans, as well as University of Innsbruck in Austria, they all came together with a team, and they were able to take 3 weeks of their time. This was between the time of 2011 to 2017-18. And they did an archaeological grid, kind of like an old school Raiders of the Lost Ark. And they spent about 3 weeks, 7 hours a day, and really put time into sifting and digging and taking photographs. And one day, a University of New Orleans student found a ring that my grandfather wore. So this is after 70 plus years. They found bone fragments, they found plane fragments and different things. And my mom got a call at some point where after this process happened, and she was asked to provide her DNA. Of course, I was skeptical. I didn't want her to do it, but she did it, and we're happy that she did. But my mother, as well as another family member, provided DNA that were able to match the bone fragment DNA for my grandfather, and that's how they made the match and found out that it was his plane that went down in that area. So it was a bittersweet story. I mean, we were ecstatic to find out finally after all these years, because my mom had wanted to know, and my grandmother, her mother, had passed away probably 7 months before we got this news.
Oh.
So unfortunately, she was 96 years old. Unfortunately, she didn't know before she passed, but we know they're together now. But yeah, so that's part of the story that we finally got some closure to. And the good part about it is in 2019, we were able to bury him in Arlington National Cemetery to give him that true closure that our family wanted. And Pastor Sanders, or Pastor Emeritus, was able to give a beautiful homegoing service in the cemetery for him. And it's funny because my mom was offered, when they first told her about it, and they said, you can bury him wherever you want. And she said that she wanted the National Cemetery. And they said, oh, that'll take 2 or 3 years. She said, I waited 70 years. You don't think I'll wait 3 years or whatever it takes to get my father buried where he should be?
Where he should be.
So, yeah, so that's kind of a little summary of what my grandfather and my mom's father. But we are so ecstatic to have this memory and this history, especially in light of what's going on in our country right now and how things are going. And we always just want to give people hope. And back then, they weren't respected, and he fought for our country, a country that didn't fight for him. And we're still fighting for that. So, yeah.
Y'all see, Grandma wasn't going nowhere. 96. She was waiting to find out what happened to her husband. Okay, okay.
My grandfather wore a pendant around his neck, and this is the cross that they found. And this was 70 years after. So
that it's still intact.
That is still intact, right? But they were very helpful and instrumental in bringing teams together to give the resources and the people that could do something about this. And I really would like to thank them, because if it wasn't for them, honestly, we wouldn't have this information. We probably wouldn't have this closure for our family.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Amber. I hear that story. God is good. We have Sister Amber Davis here with our first Black History Spotlight. And if you would like to be a part of the Black History Spotlight, we're doing one a week. So she's week 1. We have 3 left. See me after service with a great story. Steph will record it and we'll put you up. Love you guys. Peace.